Welcome back to Verde Valley Television's Senior Living Program, where we try to bring you fun, informative information, things to do, and all of the important parts and pieces of living here in the Verde Valley. We've got a couple of guests today that we're really looking forward to. We're going to learn a little bit about the Habitat for Humanity and the opportunities that they have available, both from the standpoint of housing as well as being able to volunteer and helping out our neighbors here in the Verde Valley. We also are going to talk a little bit about caring for your trees and shrubs as spring approaches. And we're going to have some entertainment from Dan Engler. He's going to play a little guitar and sing for us. First of all, we're going to hopefully learn a little bit more about some things that we need to take care of while we can still make decisions. One of the issues that we always face as we get a little bit older is how to be prepared ahead of time so that our family doesn't have to deal with what can be some ugliness as we pass. We are very fortunate to have as our guest in the studio today Justin Vaughn, attorney here in Cottonwood. And Mr. Vaughn's office handles many, many different legal issues. One of them happens to be probate. I know as I talked to a couple of different people over the last few weeks, I thought I knew what probate was and what it meant, but obviously I don't quite understand it. And there are a lot of different facets to it that we want to be aware of, at least. Mr. Vaughn, one of the first questions I just have to ask is, can you define probate and Arizona probate in particular?
Yeah, the probate process it has a reputation for being something you want to avoid, and sometimes we find that when a process or procedure has a reputation, there's some foundation in fact for that. There's a process called the probate process where somebody passes, and if you don't do certain things before you pass, you can end up having to go through that process with the court. What that means is that your beneficiaries have to participate in that court process, your creditors have to participate in that court process, you have to give notice to anybody and everybody. You have varying levels of scrutiny by the judge, either formal or informal, and you can find yourself in a what is sometimes a 10 to 12 month process, sometimes even more than that. If it's disputed in a matter that goes to the probate process, then, as you said, it can be very nasty.
And if I understand it correctly, when that has to happen, there is a pretty good possibility that some of your wishes may not be carried out the way you wanted them to.
Well, the goal and what the judges try to do is identify what the wishes were, whether that's with a will or through, sometimes there are other ways to identify it, and sometimes you have to piece things together that somebody intended to be a will. But generally, that's a priority of the judges. Let me say my experience with the Yavapai County judges, particularly the Verde Valley judges, has been exceptional. And the judges really go above and beyond and try to identify what the individual would have wanted. But if it's unclear, then that becomes very challenging. And it is a situation where other people can come in, make challenges. It's very difficult to discern, and that just adds to the time of the process.
Does having a will in place automatically allow you to avoid the probate process?
No. Okay. The will itself doesn't. By having a will, it means you don't pass intestate. If you have a will and it's properly executed, and there are different types that you can do a typed will that's witnessed and properly signed. You can do a handwritten will, but only if it's entirely in your handwriting. So it can't be somebody else's handwriting and then you sign it. It has to be entirely in that person's handwriting, and it has to clearly manifest or clearly indicate their intentions. It has to be a manifest expression that it is a will. Sometimes I've seen that people write what appears to be a laundry list and just has a list of names and a list of items. Then you have some difficulties. So if there's a clear intent and it's completely handwritten and signed by that person, it's what's called a holographic will. But that doesn't guarantee that you're not going to go through probate. The only ways to avoid probate are to either have a trust or to have all of your possessions transfer outside of probate, in fact, outside of a trust, outside of a will. And in the last decade, Arizona has adopted a lot of mechanisms to allow you to do that without the expense of a trust.
And those options, I've been told a little bit about some of those options. We've talked about a couple of them even on senior living. And I think that Arizona has been, not in my own words, and I apologize, but they've been pretty progressive in terms of identifying ways to help make it easier at that point.
Right.
Now, you mentioned the handwritten will, and I did want to go back and just explore that a little bit. Is it conceivable that someone would prepare their will in their own handwriting, and does it then have to be witnessed? Is it feasible that somebody would say, oh, that's not my aunt's handwriting, that can't be what she wanted to have done?
And those circumstances happen. Handwriting experts are occasionally brought in, if necessary, to confirm that it was the person's handwriting. You'd be surprised. There are actually, those challenges are few and far between, from what I've seen. Typically, when it's written out and you have the entirety of the will written out, there aren't as many disputes as you might think that that's the individual's handwriting. And even that, it's from my experience, it's better to have something that is prepared, that is witnessed and signed, and that's easier to get to have administered and to make sure that it is what you want. The holographic will is okay. It's certainly better than not having a will at all, unless it is your intention that your possessions pass intestate. Intestate simply means without a will. And if a person has just one beneficiary, or they intend to have their children receive all of it, and all they have are children of a single marriage, they might, in fact, decide they just want to pass intestate under the intestate laws. Some people think that if you pass intestate, it automatically goes to the state of Arizona. It doesn't. But if everyone who would have the right to inherit predeceases you, if you're the last one around and you don't have a will and there's no one else to receive your inheritance, then it does go to the state of Arizona. And oftentimes that means the state doesn't do anything and it sits.
It sits, right.
So that's not necessarily the best option.
Right. Now in Arizona, if your spouse is still living, even without a will, does everything immediately go to the spouse because of the Arizona laws?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, if you don't have a will, then it would transfer to your spouse. But unless you have a child from someone else other than that spouse,
okay,
then it gets divided. Your portion of it, your portion of community property, and half of your separate property would go to your spouse. The other portion, the other half, would go to that child or children from someone else.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, and we are going to come back and we're going to explore just a little bit more the ways that we can consider to avoid the probate process in the courts of Arizona. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
The Vaughn Law offices in Cottonwood have been serving the legal needs of Northern Arizona since it was established in the year 2000. With experience in legal matters from criminal and civil courtroom litigation to corporate and personal, the attorneys and staff use their core values to support their clients through any legal situation. Visit online at vaughn-law.com to learn more about the Vaughn Law offices, a proud supporter of the Verde Valley community.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Hi, welcome back to Senior Living. We are glad you chose to join us today, and we're talking to Justin Vaughn. We have spent a few minutes talking about the process of probate, some of the things that are issues when it comes to probate, and we are going to further explore the ways that we can avoid the probate process as much as possible. You mentioned trust, you mentioned the will, of course. I'm going to let you. What would be the first consideration that you would recommend?
Well, if somebody wanted to have control after they pass, then they should seriously think about a trust. In other words, if they thought, well, if Johnny were to get my inheritance because of his age, because of his maturity, he might do more harm to himself than good. Mm-hmm. So I want to put it in somebody else's hands to give it to him over time, to make sure he goes to college, to give it to him when he's 25 or 30 or 35, or maybe to multiple children, maybe to other relatives or friends or whoever it may be. If you want control over time, that's really one of the primary reasons to have a trust. There are some tax advantages if you have very high net worth, and those tax amounts change year to year, so it's good to check and see what those are. But typically it's an element of control. If that's not an issue, if you are comfortable with beneficiaries receiving your possessions, then there are a few things under Arizona law that are great. One is called a beneficiary deed. That was adopted in 2004 in the state of Arizona, and a number of other states have followed suit, that allows you to simply file a very simple deed that says, when I pass, I want my real estate, my land, to go to the following people in the following proportions. And that can be revoked, it can be revised, but otherwise, if you pass, well, that's recorded with the county recorder's office, it's effective. And they file a death certificate, and it automatically passes. Beneficiary deed applies to real estate, real property. To real property.
Okay.
For bank accounts, you want to make sure you have payable on death designations. For investment accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance, you want to make sure you either have a payable on death designation, if that's what they take, or a beneficiary designation. All of those items will then cause that to transfer directly. It does not pass through probate. It does not become part of your probate estate. It automatically pays or transfers to whoever you designate. Recently, as of last July, Arizona adopted a law that lets the Department of Motor Vehicles honor a beneficiary transfer of a motor vehicle title. Very recent. In fact, it's been hard for people to find those forms. The MVD puts it with all of their forms online, but you have to look it up under beneficiary. So if you go to the internet and look that up, look up beneficiary, you'll find the beneficiary form. That's one of the exceptions where you don't have to give a form to anybody. Okay, in other words, to a bank, to the recorder's office. You actually either keep that or you turn it over to the person who's going to inherit it. And when you pass, they take that with the death certificate to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and title transfers automatically. So if you can do, through those mechanisms, if you can transfer the vast majority of your assets, which is the case for most people,
right,
and your remaining property, your shoes, your hairbrush, your plates, whatever is left in your home. If that value is then below $50,000,
Right.
you never have to do any kind of probate at all. Okay, you don't need a trust for that. You don't have to go through probate. When you pass, then your beneficiaries, whoever they may be, and it can be a beneficiary under a will or an intestate beneficiary, they get to they get to prepare what's called a small estate affidavit. It's just an affidavit. They prepare that so that nobody has any question about their right to do so, and they take possession of all of those materials.
So that's if the value of all of those other pieces of personal items is under $50,000.
Correct.
And again, would that be something that one person, without designating somebody to handle your estate, if you will, they can do that and just create the list of everything that's there?
They can, and you don't even need a list.
Okay.
They can do that, and frankly, it's still good to have a will for that purpose.
Right.
Because then you've identified in your will who it is that's going to do that. And you confirm in your will who you want to receive the balance of those items, or anything else if you forgot to put a payable on death designation or a beneficiary designation. You still want to have a will to make sure that there's a safety net there.
Correct.
In case anything fell through. And in terms of estate planning, you also want to have a general power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney and a living will. Those are the documents that let people care for you if you're incapacitated but you don't pass. So those are important as well.
Right. After having, over the course of the years, my mother-in-law's passed away, my parents both had, and I will just strongly remind everybody after having gone through that process that there are ways to make it so much simpler, and the last thing that I want my spouse or my children or my grandchildren to deal with is any of that. It would be so nice to think that while I plan on being around to bother them for a good many years to come, it would be something that I would want to think about and have done so that they didn't have to. Then they could just deal with their lives at that point in their life.
Absolutely, and it's not as hard as people think. To do those things, to simply tell your bank that you want to designate a payable on death, a POD beneficiary, to make sure that your life insurance designates a beneficiary, that your accounts are taken care of, and a beneficiary deed, frankly, is very simple, very easy to do. And the motor vehicle division form is very simple. People are intimidated for the most part because they don't know what to expect, and they're not sure what to do. But it actually is very simple. It can be done very inexpensively, with most of the effort being put forth themselves.
Right.
And avoiding expensive attorney's fees now, but more importantly, avoiding expensive attorney's fees through probate later.
Exactly. Mr. Vaughn, thank you so much for joining us
Pam,
today.
thank you.
It was very, very helpful. Just want to remind everybody, visit your attorney, whether it is someone here, whether you live part-time here, part-time somewhere else. Understand what options are available to you. There are a lot of resources right here in our community that can help you find someone to assist you with that if you need it. So don't think that it's difficult. Get out there and check it out, and make sure that you minimize any problems that could happen down the road. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back. We're going to find out about taking care of our trees and shrubs as spring approaches. Hopefully it'll get here soon. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ben Bueller, owner and funeral director at Bueller Funeral Homes. My grandfather once told me, you can serve a family selfishly once, or treat them right and serve that family for generations.
Bueller Funeral Home has been serving Arizona families for 3 generations with affordable and reasonable services. Bueller Funeral Home feels a funeral should be as unique and personal as the individual it honors, whatever your choices, your traditions, or your budget.
Your life, it's all out in front of you. Your future, wide open. Come and get it. Degrees that transfer, programs that train for jobs. Yavapai College. Life explored. It's a big world. So many places to go and things to see. Experiences you've dreamed of. They can all start closer to home. Degrees that transfer, programs that train for jobs. Yavapai College. Life explored.
2 outs with a runner on first base. Now the big guy comes up to bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers. This first pitch is fouled to the back.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back to Senior Living. Thanks again for joining us today. And we still have a lot of information left to share with you. We're looking forward to it. Spring is truly right around the corner. It's only February, I know, but it'll be here before you know it. One of the things that always scares me, because I am not very knowledgeable about it, is I can use a pair of trimmers, but I'm not sure exactly what I need to use it on. With all of the different cottonwood trees, there's evergreen trees, there's all kinds of different vegetation that grows naturally, and then all of those different shrubs and trees that we plant in our yards. Sometimes I need a reminder and a refresher on when and how to take care of them. We're very fortunate that the City of Cottonwood has an expert, and he has agreed to come talk to us and share some of his knowledge with us. Mr. Jonathan Watt, thank you for joining us. And your title officially with the City of Cottonwood?
Buildings and Grounds Maintenance.
Buildings and Grounds Maintenance, which is why Mr. Luter recommended you so highly. Thanks for joining us. And you've been in the Verde Valley for how long?
2 years.
2 years? Mm-hmm. And where were you at before you came to
Tucson.
the Verde Valley? Okay. Mm-hmm. Arizona, so you definitely know all the different climates and ways
I love
to take.
Arizona.
Good deal. We were talking about that earlier. It's a great state to live in. Mm-hmm. We want your help. Tell us what we need to be thinking about right now.
Well, it's really a wonderful time of year because all the leaves have been off the trees for a long time and they're just starting to wake up, but you get to see the form of the trees. Mm-hmm. You get to see all the good things and the bad things and all the good pruning, the bad pruning, but actually the natural, how the trees actually look. Okay. And so you'll see right off on my card here, no topping. I mean, topping is a big bozo no-no in pruning world. But if you look at my illustration, here's the trunk, and here's a limb coming out on the trunk. If you had to remove a big limb, there's actually 3 steps, 3 places to cut, and you'll see it's numbered. You do a bottom cut first, you do a top cut second, and that between the two snaps the limb off, so it takes all the weight off, the most important cut. Then that's this number 3 cut right here. You'll notice every tree, every bush, almost every woody plant has what's called a branch collar, and it's a raised area of bark right where the trunk and the limb meet. You always want to cut outside of this branch collar and make a nice straight cut down. Sometimes you'll have to do a bottom cut and meet the top cut to the bottom cut, but between those 3 steps, you should be fine. Most people tend to over prune, and so these 5 steps.
I'm not being a very good assistant for you, I apologize.
Just go after crossed branches, dead branches, broken branches, branches growing towards the center, and at any one time only remove 1/3 to 1/2 of the tree or bush.
That's good information because I do get carried away, and I'm fully aware of that. Sometimes I'll wonder what happened to my tree. I'm particularly interested, you mentioned getting the weight off the branch, which I have noticed that when you don't do that, that's when they crack, and sometimes they'll crack into the branch, so then you have to cut it back even further. So
or they rip the bark into the trunk itself, and that is really bad because it's very hard for the tree to regrow after that point.
It's kind of like an open wound on the tree, and then it has to heal and scab over or whatever that it normally does. So when we're looking at these kinds of branches, the other thing that I look for, and maybe I'm wrong, but I look for branches that are growing down towards the ground. sometimes they get to where they look like they're going to grow right into the ground, and I cut those off usually. Is that not a good thing?
It usually is. It kind of depends on the species of tree.
Okay.
Some species tend to grow like a weeping tree, and so you want it, but you don't want it to be hitting the ground, no matter if it's a weeping tree or not. You want to give it a little bit of room off the ground, even a weeping tree. So, you know, again, now's the time to look at the tree as a whole, and then you'll be able to see how the tree naturally wants to grow. And so again, if it's a weeping tree, you want to, you know, limit up a little bit off the ground, but leave it so you know what kind of a tree it is.
Go into just a little bit more detail, if you don't mind, about looking at the shape of the tree. That interests me a lot. I've got a tree that grows crooked, for instance, and I've used braces and different types of things to try to straighten it out a little bit, and it's not ever going to be straight. Is there some pruning that I could do to help that out, or just make it look a little better, or that's not something that can be helped?
It kind of depends on how long the tree's been in place. If it's a really old tree, then probably not. You're doing the best you can. If it's a younger tree, you can actually dig on the side you want it to straighten it up to, and then push the tree up, and then backfill, and then basically you're standing the tree up again, but you're not severing all the roots. You're only severing the part where it needs to move to. And then you'll backfill, and you'll keep it nice and watered. It'll regrow, and it'll grow nice and straight for you.
So even if you sever those roots on that side, it'll regrow.
Should.
Oh, wow.
But then you don't want to get like right up next to the trunk. You want to dig a trench around on the outside and then push it over. And
okay. Good. That's great information. One of the things that we were asked here when I invited you to come on the show, because it's an issue, and I know I've had to deal with it. I do know that a parasite grows in mesquite trees, and that it's supposed to be part of the natural life of the mesquite tree. It really heavily took over several of my trees before, and I know it's an issue in other trees. Tell us about what this parasite is. It looks like mistletoe to me, but it's not.
There is a species of mistletoe. In fact, there's 450 species of mistletoe, and they're still finding new species.
Oh, wow.
And so there are species of mistletoe that do target mesquites. Predominantly you see them around here in cottonwoods, but mostly in ash trees. Mistletoe is a parasite. It's a hemiparasite, which is it makes its own. It's weird because it makes its own food, yet it also needs a host in order to have the host provide it mostly water and minerals.
Okay.
But it photosynthesizes, so they call it a hemiparasite.
Wow.
For a bigger tree there is treatments, but it's almost like intravenous in it for a tree, and it's something you drill a little hole and you put this chemical. It's very expensive and isn't even guaranteed. You can keep trying to prune the mistletoe out, but otherwise you kind of have to live with it. And the tree actually gets reinfested almost every year because the bird comes along and scatters more seed.
Right, and I think that's what I ran into. Resources. If we want more information about where we can find out about certain problems we may be having with our trees, where's a good resource? Can they call you?
I left my email. It might be coming up on the bottom of the screen.
It's been up on the screen.
I'd like to give a shout out actually to our very dedicated cooperative extension agents, Jeffrey Shalau and a personal friend of mine, Kai Umida from Maricopa County, very dedicated individuals. If you have any questions at all regarding anything with plants or farming or anything, those guys are your, and people in the whole cooperative extension program are your main sources of information.
We were fortunate enough to talk to Mr. Shalau early in the winter, and so we feel like we're really being able to tap into some great resources that we have here in the Verde Valley. Mr. Watts, thank you for joining us.
The pleasure's mine.
Thanks for coming to the Verde Valley and being here to work on the city of Cottonwood. We know that we live in a great place in this state right now.
I feel like I'm home.
There you go. Thanks for staying tuned, and we are going to take a short break. We'll be back right after the break, and we're going to talk about Habitat for Humanity.
The Vaughn Law offices in Cottonwood have been serving the legal needs of northern Arizona since it was established in the year 2000. With experience in legal matters from criminal and civil courtroom litigation to corporate and personal, the attorneys and staff use their core values to support their clients through any legal situation. Visit online at vaughan-law.com to learn more about the Vaughan Law offices. A proud supporter of the Verde Valley community.
For over 46 years, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic has provided a pathway to hope and recovery for area residents. With a full array of behavioral health services for children and adults, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic's caring professionals help families and individuals facing the challenges of addiction, family dysfunction, even serious mental illness. Located at 8 East Cottonwood Street in Cottonwood and with offices in Camp Verde and Sedona, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic has helped thousands with support, treatment, hope, and compassion.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. We are going to find out about Habitat for Humanity. We've talked a lot about different opportunities that are available here in the Verde Valley, and I know that I've read several times recently about the opportunity that our residents may have, regardless of age. So please pay attention and listen to what's available. Regardless of age, you may qualify to get a help up with your housing issues. We are visiting with Executive Director Gail Durkin. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. You're fairly new to the Verde Valley, or did you live here before and come back, or?
Well, I raised my family down in the Phoenix area.
Okay.
But I'd been away for a number of years.
Well, welcome back to the community, and welcome to Habitat. I know I've been to the Restore. Again, I want to say thank you to the Habitat for Humanity Restore. They helped us out with our set, which was a real benefit, and it looks great. Thank you. The Restore offers some great value for our entire community, and it helps support a great resource. First question that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know this has been at the top of your list for the last several months, and that is getting people to apply for housing. Tell us a little bit about the process.
Yes, it is a process, and we don't want people to think that we give families these homes. They go through quite a process. Part of that process is to come in or call us. We will send out a basic pre-screen application. At that point, our family selection committee, who's been working very, very hard to make sure that our documents are very up to date, they will go through and they will contact the applicant. And at some point, they will ask for further documentation. There are some requirements, of course. You have to be employed here in the Verde Valley for at least 1 year. You have to have lived here in the Verde Valley for at least 2 years. Of course, you must be a U.S. citizen. You have to, the basic criteria is need. You might be living in substandard housing at this time. It could be very unsafe. You might be paying rent that's just exorbitant and difficult to meet. The next thing would be ability to pay. So definitely you need to be employed and provide documentation for that. And then willingness to partner with Habitat for Humanity. And that requires, as we build your home, and even a little before we start the actual physical build or renovation on an existing home, they put in about 400 hours plus sweat equity hours.
I know that I would certainly be more than willing to do something like that. The program that is offered definitely makes it at least possible to own a home for some people that may not otherwise be able to.
It really does, yes.
I know you and I talked briefly some time ago about the fact that military families can qualify, and I just wanted to clarify that, because while they may be not living in the Verde Valley if they're stationed somewhere else, but moving home to the Verde Valley, is that Do I still understand correctly?
I believe that is correct. I believe that if this is their residence typically, and maybe they've been off, serving some time elsewhere, coming home to the Verde Valley, I do believe that would work. Yes.
Well, I know that we had talked about that a little bit. There are so many situations, and I know in the past, Habitat has been in the Verde Valley for a number of years. Sometimes we don't help get the word out enough, and there aren't as many applicants as we know that there must certainly be people in need of assistance with their housing. This year, you've made a concerted effort to make sure that people are aware that the program is out there, and your committee has been putting in a good number of hours. Are there time limitations as to when you can apply, or how does that process work? Does it go all year long?
Well, we will always accept an application for the most part. We just completed 3 informational presentations that we did at 3 different times so that people could come in and sit down and listen and ask questions and see if they feel that this is something they'd like to become involved in. We've advertised. Our newsletters have gone out recently. Now, what we are doing currently, Family Selection Committee has put, and actually it's coming up very soon, kind of a deadline on this group of applicants, and we've actually seen more applicants than they've ever seen before. And so that is happening, but that doesn't mean we will, this is for like the next house. Then we're hoping to do the second and third house in this next year to 18 months. So definitely we will continue to take applications.
Excellent. And you do some new builds and some renovations?
Yes. We have built 11 homes since 1995 when our affiliate began. And I think it's kind of exciting that we're going to build house number 12 in 2012.
Excellent. Excellent. That is truly, truly exciting. There are a number of different possibilities for people to assist with this. First of all, there is need all year long, whether you're working on a house at the particular moment, or whether it's at the restore, or whether it's fundraising, whatever the case may be, there is need. I do know that the needs increase as you get ready to move forward on a project.
Yes.
And I think that it's important for people to know that simply shopping at the restore is assisting Habitat for Humanity from the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about the store.
Well, the restore, for us, we relocated beginning of June. They moved during May, and it was a very big move for the affiliate. And our restore at 737 South Main here in Cottonwood has just been no regrets looking back. It was the best thing we could have ever done. We still have people coming in daily. I could almost say once a day somebody says, I didn't know Habitat was here. But our exposure on Main Street is wonderful.
Excellent. As you move forward with the application process, are there any more informational meetings coming up?
Not at this moment. Okay. I know we will do some more probably later into the spring as we start another round of screenings and so forth, and of course looking for people to apply.
Okay. We are going to remind everyone it's www.vvhabitat.org.
Yes.
Okay. Check out the website. There are a lot of opportunities to assist, to volunteer for Habitat. If you can't swing a hammer, there are things in the store that need to be taken care of. There's paperwork. There is working with these folks that are applying for a home and going through the process. There's a lot of ways in which you can help. Gail Durkin, Executive Director, thank you for being on Senior Living.
Thank you for having us.
And we've enjoyed the information. Again, one more opportunity that we can help out in our own community. We're going to take a short break, and we are going to visit the Clarkdale Heritage Museum and check out A Day in the Life of a Miner. We'll be right back.
For For over 46 years, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic has provided a pathway to hope and recovery for area residents. With a full array of behavioral health services for children and adults, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic's caring professionals help families and individuals facing the challenges of addiction, family dysfunction, even serious mental illness. Located at 8 East Cottonwood Street in Cottonwood and with offices in Camp Verde and Sedona, the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic has helped thousands with support, treatment, hope, and compassion.
Your life, it's all out in front of you. Your future, wide open. Come and get it. Degrees that transfer, programs that train for jobs. Yavapai College. Life explored. It's a big world. So many places to go and things to see. Experiences you've dreamed of. They can all start closer to home. Degrees that transfer, programs that train for jobs. Yavapai College. Life explored.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
Where men are cheaper than timbers, gold more precious than blood. The danger increases as the shaft it goes deeper. Darkness cavens and floods. From chloride down to Bisbee on a 10-day.
Hi, welcome to our very own town of Clarkdale. Clarkdale's just one of the many gyms right here in our Verde Valley. It was founded in 1912 when Senator William A. Clark came to this part of the state and built the first master planned company town for the company that he owned, which was United Verde Copper Company. He built this town to provide homes, services, and a lifestyle for the over 7,000 workers at the smelter. The smelter, of course, processed the ore that was mined in Jerome. Over the years, much history has happened here in Clarkdale, mostly surrounding the mining community. It has retained all of its richness, all of the original architecture, and in 1998 was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. There are over 386 structures that are on this register, and it is one of Arizona's largest rural National Historic Sites. Since the mining is part of the major rich history, we have come today to the Clarkdale Heritage Museum to investigate all of the displays, the exhibit that is made available to us from Mr. Rich Scoffrin. He brought us a lot of artifacts to take a look at. I know that you came here in 2009 as a permanent resident of the Verde Valley, but your mining interests began much earlier than that.
Oh, much earlier, yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
When I was 15, I found a friend of mine found a lost mine. And there was an old man named Lagore that had a trail up to his mine called Lagore Trail. And when he was on his deathbed, he told my friend and his father where his mine was, and nobody knew where it was. And so we went up there and we found the mine and dug into the scree and saw the tunnel and went in it, and he had all of his tools there, the old mining tools and wheelbarrow and all of that. So I became hooked.
I guess.
So for the rest of my life, I've been interested in mining history and mining preservation of mining history. And I've collected a lot of artifacts along the way. Some I found, some I traded, some I purchased, and so.
It is a great piece of history, and I know we talked a little bit earlier. My father was a copper miner the whole time I was growing up, and of course I grew up in Apache Junction with the history of the Lost Dutchman gold mine.
Yeah.
So what you see today as mining is nothing like what it began. So to be able to preserve that's been fascinating. What brought you to this part of the country?
The beauty of the country, and it's a mining town. You know, I live in the village south of Sedona, but Jerome is quite a mining town, and it really interested me. And of course, the beauty of the area is wonderful.
Right. Tell us just a little bit about the exhibit that you've provided for us here at the Clarkdale Museum. It's been fascinating to me in the brief minutes that I've been here. Tell us a little bit about how you put this together and how you were able to create this type of an exhibit for us.
Well, what I wanted to do was give people an idea of what a hard rock miner did back in the period of 1890 to about 1920. And so I have in this exhibit, I have artifacts on things that he brought from home, and also I talk about how he got to work, you know, going down the shaft to his workplace, and also what he did when he was working, and then also some of the superstitions that they had. I have in the display here also artifacts and just interesting memorabilia about the dangers of the mining.
Yeah, used the term earlier. He was the miner that was killed that we were talking about earlier, when the building collapsed on him.
Yes. He was born in 1837 and had just a worldwide life. He traveled by schooner to different parts of the world, and finally he ended up in a small mine in Summit County, Colorado, and got slabbed, meaning that the roof came down on him and killed him, and it just didn't deserve that.
Exactly. I do, your exhibit is going to be here at the Clarkdale Heritage Museum through the end of February,
it's slated to be 3 months.
Okay, 3 months,
yeah.
Very nice. And in March 15th and 17th to be exact, you will be doing a presentation on a day in the life of a hard rock miner.
Yes, I will. I'll be talking some about the history of the United Verde mine, and then and also touch on various elements of the exhibit here, and that will be in the Clarkdale Library at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then after the presentation, I'll bring the attendees over and give them a personal tour.
That's very exciting, and it's something that we should all take some pride in, the history of our area. There is a display that's on permanent display here at the Clarkdale Museum about the mining communities. This one will be here for 3 months or so, and it's something that could be enjoyed by all of us. The Clarkdale Heritage Museum is open Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Admission is always free. Donations are welcome, but we encourage you to visit and find out about the history of Clarkdale and become a little bit ingrained in all of that richness. We want to send you back to the studios after a break and catch up with some more exciting activities going on in the Verde Valley.
I am a miner, I'm a hard rock miner. To the shaft house I must go.
They say opposites attract, and I guess that is the case. When I want breakfast in bed, you laugh in my face. Through all our years together and all our memories, I'm still putting up with you and you're still putting up with me. This thing they call true love is so hard to define. You've got your opinion and I've got mine. Whatever it is, I know this is true. If you keep putting up with me, I'll keep putting up with you. Sometimes I have to wonder why you're putting up with me. You deserve a badge of honor for all the misery. But an even bigger question that I'd like an answer to: why in the world am I still putting up with you? Through thick and through thin, that was the deal we made. After all these years together, I guess we made the grade. Putting up with me was a job meant for two. I got the easy end of it, putting up with you. This thing they call true love is so hard to define. You've got your opinion and I've got mine. Whatever it is, I know this is true. If you keep putting up with me, I'll keep putting up with you. Through good times and bad, we pledge that as our pact. We've seen our share of both, you know that is a fact. So let's hang in there, darling, and see this thing through. If you keep putting up with me, I'll keep putting up with you. This thing they call true love is so hard to define. You've got your opinion and I've got mine. Whatever it is, I know this is true. If you keep putting up with me, I'll keep putting up with you. If you keep putting up with me, I'll keep putting up with you.
All right. Welcome back to Senior Living, and welcome to Dan Engler. Folk singer, is that appropriate?
I think that's accurate.
Okay, folk singer extraordinaire is our guest in studio today. I met Dan several years ago, and to be quite honest, well, let me back up for a second. Great song. I've met your wife, and I don't know how she's done it either, but we'll leave it at that. I met Dan several years ago, and when he took up guitar, I wasn't quite sure what to think about that. But as it turns out, he has become quite the name locally, playing at a lot of different places. That song he just shared with me came from his Valentine concert, and that is a #1 hit right off the bat, and we're the first to hear it live on Senior Living. That's true. Dan, you've been in the Verde Valley for just about ever, haven't you?
25 years.
All right, and we've heard some stories, but Dan's daytime job, I guess you want to call it, is editor of the Verde Independent Camp Verde Bugle Kudos magazine, and we're proud to be part of the media along with Dan. But now his fun and his release, and he has gotten very, very good at it, is to play music. You recently did a few concerts, and I believe that you played the Centennial concert
I played the Centennial concert with Marshall Trimble a week ago Saturday. That was a lot of fun. The guy's a great entertainer.
He is. How'd you get started? What made you decide you wanted to do this?
Actually, I played from the time I was 10 years old until I was about 18 years old. And when I went off to college, I think I sold some guitars or lost them or whatever. And then I didn't play for nearly 35 years.
Wow.
And then I started again when I was in my early 50s.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's exciting. Your Valentine concert was at Bent River, and I know you're going to be at Bent River coming up this weekend, I believe it is.
Yes, I'm up there with Saturday night with a great young singer-songwriter named Sean Williams. I really enjoy performing with him.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, because I know this is very near and dear to your heart, we visited with Joe Neary a few weeks ago. We had him in, and he played some music for us. And he mentioned the Bob Dylan birthday bash, and I suppose, can we count on you being there for that?
Yeah, this will be my third year playing at Joe's show in May, and that's always a lot of fun, and he rounds up the very best musicians in the Verde Valley, and why I'm included in that bunch, I don't know, but I'm thrilled to be there, and we're going to have 2 shows this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's going to be a show Friday night and Saturday night, and I've seen the lineup, and there's just wonderful musicians. Alan James is going to play, Dan Bresnan's going to play, Don Witcher, William Eaton, just a bunch of great first-class musicians. Victoria Pratt Keating. Sorry, Vic. She'll be there as well.
That's great. May, what are the dates?
May 18th, 19th.
And that will be at?
Old Town Center for the Arts.
Excellent. That's great. I've seen a lot of your name pop up at different places. You've played at the Horn. What's coming up for you here in the very near future besides Bent River?
Well, I play on Monday nights at Thanks a Lottie in Camp Verde, and Wednesday nights typically at Rendezvous. A lot of Thursday nights at Quinces in Jerome. Beyond that, I think March the 7th, I have a really big show, Verde Valley Senior Center.
All right.
That'll be fun.
All right.
They just called me today on that, and beyond that, I'd have to look at my schedule.
That's quite all right. We'll try to keep your schedule on tap. Definitely the Bob Dylan celebration will be on myradioplace.com. Click on View the Events. We'll have that on there. And we'll be watching and looking for you wherever you're going to play. I would love to... Anything else you want to add? Is there something else that you want people to know about your music? I am totally impressed, and I'm especially impressed with your songwriting abilities. And I think that you've got, if not anything else, you've got a lot of fun to look forward to.
I think I'm just a work in progress.
And I think that's a good way to be. Will you show us some more of your work in progress? Do you mind?
I will.
All right, let's hear it.
This is an original song called Sunday Dinner. Pass the potatoes and put some butter on this bun for me, will you please? Sunday dinners at Grandma's house, friends and family. Mama said Sundays for go-to-church meeting, singing near my God to thee. But I preferred my grandma's fried chicken, cornbread, and black-eyed peas. I was front and center in Sunday school, learning about the golden rule. Do unto others, and the Sermon on the Mount made my mama real proud, that's true. But when the preacher started preaching, I was thinking about reaching for another piece of chicken or two. My stomach was churning, my hunger was burning, pumpkin pie with whipped cream, thank you. My grandma had a garden, she cooked what she grew, could feed the Army and Navy too. Corn and potatoes, turnips and carrots, spinach and black-eyed peas. When they sang the last hymn and said the closing prayer, hit the door, I was out of there. Everybody's going to my grandma's house, Sunday dinner is being prepared. My grandpa said grace while my cousin made a face when her brother pinched her in the side. My uncle said, boy, if you do that again, I'm gonna tan your hide. My mama had a drumstick, my daddy took a breast, and I grabbed another thigh. I ate it real quick, now my plate's all clean, want a piece of that pumpkin pie. So pass the potatoes and put some butter on this bun for me, will you please? Sunday dinners at Grandma's house, friends and family. Mama said Sundays for go-to-church meeting, singing near my God to thee. But I preferred my grandma's fried chicken, cornbread, and black-eyed peas. Well, it's 50 years later and my grandma's passed on. My, how the years have flown. Seemed like only yesterday I was a kid at play. Now my hair's all gray, and those family traditions, they pass me by, but I'm rich in memory of Sunday dinners at my grandma's house with friends and family. Oh, I preferred my grandma's fried chicken, cornbread, and black-eyed peas.
Dan Engler, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you'll come back again sometime. Want to thank you all for being here from Verde Valley Television, Yavapai Broadcasting. We want to say thanks. Join us next time. We'll see you then.